Hello, hello, hello. Peace be still, everyone. This is Tosha, and you are tuning into the Supernova Tosha Show podcast, the show that addresses social issues and how it affects our community. And today, what are we going to be discussing? I tell you what, it's going to be Kamala Harris. Now, she's been vice president. She's been, held other areas of office for a while. And not only that, she's been the vice president. And so I don't understand why everybody keeps calling her Kamala, or I think it's Kamala. So because they mispronounce it so often, I end up mispronouncing it also. But her name is Kamala Harris. Okay. All right. So as we all know by now, unless you are living under a rock, but we should all know by now that President Joe Biden has had a political career for 54 years, which includes more than 3 decades in the Senate and 3 terms in the White House. 2 of those terms, he served as vice president, of course, to then President Barack Obama. In 1970, he was elected to the Newcastle County Council, and that's in 1970, and the U.S. Senate in 1972 as one of the youngest senators in history. As a senator, Joe Biden drafted and led the effort to pass the Violent Crime Control Law Enforcement Act and the Violent Against Women's Act. There's an issue that took urgency when the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022. The conservatives questioned the legal precedent establishing the right to privacy for birth control access. A contraceptive maker applied to the FDA for the over-the-counter approval, so OTC, over-the-counter. CVS and Walgreens have pledged to carry the contraceptive called O-pill. So Biden wants to make it requiring no cost coverage of OTC items like the O-pill without a prescription by most commercial health plans. So big ups to Joe Biden for that. Also, Biden has established the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. In 2023, schools were awarded $286 million in federal dollars to support student wellness and school mental health professionals. So basically, we're going over some of the things that Biden has done thus far, because a lot of people are still on the fence of who they're going to vote for and who they're not going to vote for, or some people just aren't even going to vote. So I'm really just highlighting some of the things that Biden has done in office, because as we now know that he has stepped down and he is endorsing Kamala Harris. And so the Harris administration, if she wins, would take over whatever Biden has, going on as far as the Biden administration. So I know a lot of people don't watch the news. A lot of people don't get involved in politics. They just get up every day doing their, daily routine, going to work, taking care of the kids, paying the bills, taking care of the house, taking care of their in-laws, doing whatever they have to do to survive. It's a daily grind with some of us. So there are a lot of people who don't watch the news, or people who are not even living in the United States of America and are not that versed on what's going on here. And, just to highlight some things that's going on, they just know that this is a mess, what's going on now. And so just to highlight some of what the Biden administration has going on. So schools will continue to receive millions of dollars over the next 5 years to address youth mental health and student wellness, as the remaining cash from the legislation's $1 billion in funding is distributed. Under the Biden administration, officials have made the transition to green energy and accelerating approval of renewable energy projects. There is a legislation known as the Inflation Reduction Act to reduce greenhouse gases that are driving climate change. That does also include billions for new programs and lucrative tax incentives to boost technologies, while solar and wind, as well as next generation sources like green hydrogen. There is a continuation of rolling out the policies and programs focused on the energy transition. Now, if memory serves correctly, I believe the Trump administration had even denied that there is such thing as climate change. So we can tell by even now in the summers, there are some states that literally have hit triple digits in as far as temperatures and how hot it is. Same thing happened last year. And then when it comes to winter time, the winters are brutal as well. So we can see definitely that we are definitely being affected by climate change. This is a huge one for me. Another thing, mortgage discrimination. So when I speak of racism and discrimination, I'm not referring to like the low intellect, the low vibrational, intolerant, racist that likes to use the N word, or thinks that he or she, like, they're racist superior. I could care less about those people. What I'm most concerned about is the systemic racism that's written within the government. And one of them is called redlining. Now, for decades, the government had discouraged lenders from extending mortgage loans to borrowers in Black neighborhoods. So in 1977, Congress passed a law to basically combat that practice. So the law requires banks to lend to credit-worthy lower income people in Black neighborhoods. And the Federal Reserve and its fellow independent bank regulators have drafted a new anti-redlining framework that will go into effect starting in January 2026. So when people start running their mouths and they're like, oh, you've got this new movie out and you have this and that, and it's pushing the whole rhetoric about, racism and way to go, dividing the country. It's always been like this. And not only that, but it's systemic. It's been in the government. There were actual laws that prohibited Black people from moving forward, from voting, from home ownership and things like that. So when Black people talk about racism in the United States, it's the laws that were enacted in government. And so now we need legislations to come in to wipe those out. That's the only way we can get rid of this systemic racism. That's really it. So I'm just really excited about these new things that are coming. By the way, take it however you want it, but I feel like if Trump wins, the Trump administration is going to get rid of all of this. He's going to completely obliterate all of this, and we'll continue to have this divisiveness within the United States. And that's just, I said what I said, okay? Under the Biden administration, there is a major crackdown on junk fees and overdraft fees. This is huge because now this campaign is to eliminate fees and hidden changes that are levied by airlines, cable companies, concert ticket sellers, and hotels. That's just to name a few. Now, let me explain something to you. Back in the day, I used to work I worked for two cable companies. One of them, I could say Comcast, whatever. I work for them. They're now Xfinity. And I can just tell you that during training, they would teach us how to read a bill, right? So a customer calls in, this is how you read a bill. Even they encourage us to get company shirts. So if we're in the grocery store or if we're in the mall or wherever, and a customer comes up to us and the customer says, hey, you work for Comcast and, I have an issue with my bill, blah, blah. Like, we were encouraged to take people's phone numbers and do whatever it is that we can do to help them. So, yeah, I never wore a shirt in public, no. But it's so they would teach us how to read the bill, and we'd go over, these are the fees, and this is that, and, this is that. And there were literally fees on the bill that no one could explain, and I mean no one. And what they would tell us to tell the customers is this: we don't know what those fees are. And, I've explained the bill to the best of my ability. And if you need further explanation, contact your legislative office. That's basically what we were told to tell the customers. And that's that. So, just, moving up within the company, this is just what we were told. So yeah, there were fees on there and things that they were unexplainable. And so, yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, like I said, this is good. The junk fees and overdraft fees, this is really, 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 really good. Also, in 2022, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau launched an initiative to expand the crackdown to target financial fees that target credit card, late fees, and insufficient funds fees that the banks also impose. I mean, those fees are ridiculous. These late fees, they are astronomical, and these insufficient fees and late fees for credit card payments, they're astronomical. And you have to understand that, they understand, but like without you having customers, how else is your business going to grow? How's your bank going to grow? How's your how people are using your credit card? And so when you hit people with fees, it's really a turnoff. So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is the CFPB, released its proposal in January to cut fees that large banks and credit unions charge consumers for overdrafting their account. The banks now impose about $30 to $40 of fees. And so now that's going to be cut down to like anywhere from $3 to $14 tops, which is wonderful news. Golf clap, golf clap. And for credit card late charges, down to $8. Another round of golf claps. Yes, I think this is wonderful news. The CFPB expects its overdraft rule to save consumers up to $3.5 billion a year. And we all can do it savings. And when you hear billions and billions and billions, that's good news. That's awesome. So for all the people, right? All the people who love Mary Jane, this one is for you. Yes, yes, yes. This is from the Biden. This is from the Biden administration. So during the Nixon administration, Mary Jane, known as marijuana, has been classified in the same category as LSD and heroin. What that simply means is that these drugs have a high propensity for addiction. And, they basically, it's saying that the addiction, there's a high propensity for addiction, and it has no known medical value. So Biden has issued an executive order directing the Department of Health and Human Services to conduct a review of all available cannabis science and recommend whether the classification of Miss Mary Jane should be changed. Right? So the HHS issued its recommendation in August of 2023 that marijuana should be moved from the most prohibitive level on the Controlled Substances Act, Schedule 1, to a middle category, which is Schedule 3. So basically, from moving it to Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. And Schedule 3 drugs, such as ketamine and testosterone, have moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence. So kudos for that. All right, so you're asking, what is the impact? So the impact, the move to a Schedule 3 drug, right, would make it easier to study, right? Which could give politicians and regulators a better idea of how to best write laws concerning cannabis. More and more states are legalizing and regulating cannabis in recent years, which is true. I let's see, we're in 2024. I think like in 2022, someone invited me out to this little spot that I've never, ever, ever heard of in my life. And it's in an area like downtown. And, growing up, it was always like Skid Row. It's like the Skid Row area. So, it was a place that I never went or never frequent. So when I arrived, I was pleasantly surprised. They're gentrifying the area. I know a lot of people don't agree with gentrification, but I mean, I actually do, because I feel like if you live in a certain area, you should take care of it. It's not everything that your civil workers can do. There are like city halls and municipalities that will give out free paint. I mean, even like I don't like a Home Depot or something, when they mix the wrong paint, they'll have a shelf where they have free paint where you can just go get. Just sweep your sidewalks, pick up the trash, encourage your neighbors to get up on a Saturday between 7 and 9 and just pick up trash and just, take care of your area, take care of your neighborhood. If you have potholes where water gathers, who's ever's running that neighborhood, your commissioners, your mayors, your vice mayors, you are supposed to go knocking on their door and say, hey, you're getting paid to take care of our areas and you're not, and it's suffering. So you have a responsibility to do that. And when you neglect it and then you contribute to, the property value loss in your area, and then this is what happens. Someone comes in, buys it up, they see an opportunity and they fix it up. So this downtown used to be Skid Row area is being gentrified. And so I, went down there and there was this, I don't know, it's like, where those like artsy Erica Badu, soul artsy people hang out. And it was like, like an upscale little cafe, and they serve like the kava teas. It was the first I've been exposed to kava tea and all these other things. And literally, there was like different rooms where you could just go hang out, and then there's an outside covered patio, and you're just sitting out there, and people were just like rolling off and just smoking. And I was so confused because I was like they're smoking marijuana like everywhere. And he was like, yeah, it's cool. Like, and then he started educating me on the laws, and you can have this much and it's this much, and it's legal. And I had no clue. So it was kind of cool. And the people were respectful before they, lit up. They, asked, made sure it was okay, if everyone was okay. And I don't smoke. So I just kind of excused myself and went back inside. But it was a fun little it was a fun vibe. It was really a vibe. It was you can go to different rooms and explore. But the fact that they had made such major changes in the marijuana laws, it was okay. And I don't know, like, so my roots, right, are Jamaican, and so most people associate Jamaicans with smoking weed. I don't smoke weed. However, I do believe in the medicinal purposes of cannabis. As far as making tea, I'm a huge herbal tea. I believe in roots and herbal teas. I use it a lot for pain management and other things. And so the elders, and I'm talking professional, like extremely professional people, have told me that you take the tea leaves, you boil it, you make a tea. It's a natural laxative. It'll clean you out whenever, some of the kids were going back to school, like back in the days, like in the, you know, 50s, 60s, that's what you would use. It's back to school time. So everybody has to be dewormed and cleansed. And so the kids would get the tea and it would just clean them out. And you didn't get high off of it. It wasn't for the children to be high or anything like that, but it was just, to cleanse. It's a cleanser, a laxative, and it just cleaned out your bowels and everything. So things like that, I believe. And then, cannabis and hemp and all that, I think it's, you can turn it into, I think it's, hemp comes from cannabis as well. And so you can use it as a hair dye, just so many natural things that you can use it for. So I definitely believe in the natural medicinal purposes of cannabis and what marijuana can do. The reason why I wouldn't smoke it is because I just feel like smoke is not, your lungs aren't meant for smoke. There's a new thing. I don't know if this is old or new. I'm just hearing about it, about steaming. So basically, you inhale the steam. I don't know too much about it, but I plan to do some research, and I'll probably even do an episode about the steaming of cannabis and see what it's about. But I've seen some people who do podcasts and vloggers. Their experience was different. That's all I can say. But I'll do a little bit more research on it and see if I can put some things together, and even see if I can even tour one of these places where they steam it. So maybe that's a little bit more healthier. But their experiences that they talk about are just like out of body. So yes, we are concerning the Mary Jane, like I said. um, it could give politicians and regulators a better idea of how to best write laws concerning cannabis. And more states, as I stated, are legalizing and regulating cannabis. And, a schedule of cannabis would be a seismic shift in America's drug laws and changing the perception of the infamous Miss Mary Jane. And in the words of Mr. Rick James, he says, "I am in love with Mary Jane. She is my main thing. She makes me feel so right. She makes my heart sing." Yeah, I love the groove. Mhm. So anyway, for copyright purposes, I couldn't even sing the words. So it's a smooth little groove. And of course, when you're kids, have no idea what he's singing about. But then when you get older, okay, that's what it is. So that was a short political break for the Mary Jane lovers, and paying homage to the late great Rick James. That's for the old heads like myself. If you know, you know. All right, so let's keep it moving to education. This is a big one for me. So, for decades, the federal government has gone back and forth, forth and forth. Little Aaliyah in there. They've been going back and forth. Why? Because they are trying to solve the problem of people who work and who struggle to earn a living after graduating from colleges and universities, or maybe even a career training program. So here is what the Biden administration is doing to combat this issue. So starting July 2024, and we are literally in July right now, July 2024, career training programs could lose federal funding if their graduates leave with lots of student debt relative to their earnings, or if the typical graduate earns roughly less than $25,000. I'm assuming it's $25,000 a year. And a similar concept would also apply to many colleges and universities that receive federal aid. So schools would have to warn students if they fail. Biden's new debt and earning metrics could only low-rated career programs would face a loss of funding. So this policy will save federal taxpayers nearly $14 billion over the next decade by reducing defaults on federally backed student loans. And I'm actually on the bandwagon for this. It's great news for anyone returning to school. If you're going back to university or college, you want to, get a higher degree. Like say you have a bachelor's, you want to go back for your master's or doctorate. For those that are returning students, and also if you're a parent and you have college age kids, this is definitely a good look. So this is some great news for people in this situation. And there are a lot more laws and legislatives that the Biden administration is doing and will continue on until he steps down in January of 2025. And by now, we all know that President Biden has announced he's dropped out of the race and that he supports Kamala Harris, the current VP of the United States of America. So people are speculating, why they think that he's dropping out. This is just my personal opinions. I feel like the internal Democratic Party, they basically were discussing it over and over and over. So the Democratic Party had asked Biden to drop out, and this is something that they've been trying to do. Also, health concerns and his age. Now, recently, Biden contracted the COVID-19 virus, where he is quarantined in his home in Delaware. Now, I can imagine having a virus like COVID and campaigning is just too much, especially at his age. And he may even have, what they call long COVID, which is having symptoms even after, you've gotten over the virus, like you're testing and you're testing negative, but you still have like some of the symptoms left over from COVID. But the health concern that I believe that they're talking about is that, he's showing signs of dementia, and the public outcry is deafening due to the gaffes and, made by Biden. And I'm thinking there are other presidents who've done the same. So here are some notable gaffes by President George W. Bush. If you remember back in, this is a long time ago, but November 6, 2000, when he says, they underestimated me. Okay. So in January 11th of 2000, he said, rarely is the question asked, is our children learning? And then he prematurely had a banner on May 1st, 2003, saying mission accomplished, declaring the end of a major combat operation in Iraq. But the conflict was still going, and it continued on for many years. But of course, he said mission accomplished, signifying that it was over and we won when it wasn't over at all. So also, do you remember when Clinton declared I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky? Well, we later found out that through DNA, who skeeted on her dress. So, and how about when Trump was referring to the violent white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017, and he referred to them as very fine people. And then in October 13th, 2017, Trump's speech said that he met with the president of the Virgin Islands, unaware that he is said. Okay. All right. So when the hurricanes had hit Puerto Rico, he kept referring to it as that country, as if he didn't know that Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. So another rationale for Biden's dropping out from the race is also public opinion. Folks simply said that he's too old and he sounds confused, and his approval rating kept going down, down, down. Well, let me just say this. Mr. Joe Biden, the time is near for you to take a bow. You have done a commendable job in bringing some peace to a divided country. The rest is up to each individual. You inherited a troubled economy and a nation in crisis due to the mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic by the previous administration. Despite your flaws and the inevitable mistakes along the way, you did your best to lead and make meaningful changes. As you gracefully step down and pass the torch to your successor, we wish for a positive future for the Democratic Party and the United States. We are particularly excited to see a Black woman with Asian and Jamaican heritage take the lead. We look forward to Kamala Harris making a significant progress in healthcare, in climate change, environmental policies, criminal justice reform, economic policies, job creation, immigration, and gun control legislation. Well, that does it for me. To the loyal family, the Supernova Tosha Show podcast can be heard on such apps: Spotify, Pandora, TuneIn, or iHeartRadio. What is my goal? My goal is to be on the top 10 podcast list to listen to. So please like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Go to my YouTube channel, spread the word, have gatherings over tea and crumpets or wine and grapes and cheese and discuss some of my topics, right? It makes a great entertainment, great social entertainment for everyone. You sit around and gather around and you don't know what to talk about, put on my show. All right. I am so grateful for your time. I do want to thank you for being attentive, and I appreciate your presence. So be careful, be safe, walk good, peace be still.